I'm live. I haven't done this in a long time. I just wanted to come on and do a reading of my first ever Substack article, which is a paraphrase of a chapter in my upcoming book. Um, and this is about reparations. I just did an appearance on Marty Heiser's show, which it aired up in Connecticut. Um, and I wanted to just share with you guys my first Substack article, this article on reparations. I just want to do a reading of it and have an official, put off online. And you can also read that article online at conservative.com. That's my Substack, benjirby.substack.com, or, conservative.com is the shortcut to it. So I'm just going to read this for you guys. We are not having a serious political conversation about reparations. This is something that millions of Black people around the country are concerned about, and I think it's about time someone gives the subject an honest yet respectful political analysis, and that's why I'm here today. So, Black folks, before y'all put me on the coon cross like my old friends here and crucify me, just hear me out. And I'm not, and this is not a, be a Republican, vote for Trump thing. I'm not Candace Owens. I don't give a damn whether you vote Republican or not. Don't vote for Trump. Vote for Trump. Who cares? It doesn't change the truth of this analysis. I'm not trying to convince anyone or change anyone's politics. I only ask the questions that we should be asking ourselves. What you do with the answers to those questions is totally up to you. I want to start by saying that I am what's called ADOS/FBA, meaning I am a Black American descendant of slaves on both sides, and I have the paperwork to prove it. My great grandfather, Hampshire Brown, was a slave, and I'm not a tether, as they say, as Tariq Nasheed and his people would say. My lineage and hairline, because that's a thing, check out. So if reparations were a thing, I'd be getting a check and I would be cashing said check. But in reality, reparations is about as real as the Easter Bunny, and I mean this as no disrespect to activists like Yvette Carnell, Tariq Nasheed, Michi X, or even Dr. Umar. I follow all of them. I do value their work. I don't necessarily agree with them all the time, but I do follow them. I find them educational and entertaining. But I do think there are a few things politically, as far as the process goes for reparations, that they haven't quite considered. And I do have, like I said, I have a whole chapter in my upcoming book where I'm going a deeper dive on this whole thing. So reparations is never going to happen because it was never meant to actually happen. It is meant to be a political wedge issue designed to tether Black people to the Democrat Party. We tend to get caught up in this argument of whether Black people deserve reparations. And if anyone says we don't, then that person is a racist and everybody is fighting. It's not really a matter of deserve or not deserve. The Ukraine doesn't deserve hundreds of billions of our tax dollars, yet they're getting it. Why? Is it because they are white? No. It's because war is profitable. And most importantly, it's politically advantageous. And reparations is just not as politically advantageous as war. War brings political factions together, as the war in Ukraine has bipartisan support, unfortunately. And reparations, as it is now marketed, keeps political factions apart, and that is by design. There are 4 points to consider. One, if Democrats wanted to pass reparations, they could have passed it in 2009, 2010, when Obama and Democrats had full supermajority control of Congress. They could have passed it, and the Republicans were able to do a damn thing to stop it. So why didn't they? Why is reparations only a thing when Democrats are out of power in Congress? If reparations didn't pass under the first Black president, do you really expect it to pass under some random white dude? The same way the rebellious group of 20 congressmen led by Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and Brian McDonald refused to vote for Kevin McCarthy's speakership earlier this year before their populist Republican issues were addressed, and for this they were roundly made fun of by Democrats in the media and on Black Twitter, is the same way the Congressional Black Caucus should have held out their votes to Nancy Pelosi until they vote for the actual funding of, not just the study of, reparations was put on the House floor. Nancy Pelosi would not have been seated without their approval. So if our Black Democrat representatives in Congress are so for reparations, why didn't they use their actual power to move it forward? Because for widespread reparations to happen for 30 to 40 million Black people in this country, it would have to happen at the federal level and may even take adding an amendment to the US Constitution to solve this issue for once and for all. So we're talking about a House majority and with at least 60 votes in the Senate to release the billions or possibly trillions from the US Treasury we're talking about here. No state can afford to do that or have the power to even do that, not even California. So what about California? Good question. California is not a competitive state for Democrats. It's the bluest of blue states. Democrats can propose whatever radical proposals they want through California and face zero danger of losing any ground politically. They can tell you, sure, we're going to give you $5 million just because you're black in California. And once whatever they propose out of California gets to the Supreme Court and dies to the federal level, they can always blame the racist Republicans. But if reparations was a real thing for Democrats to actually pass into law and actually do, they would be trying to push it through the legislative body, Congress, where laws are actually made, not through show trials in the courts. And speaking of legislation, let's see how many Democrat senators, the actual legislators and lawmakers, support reparations outside of that of California. Now, the 2024 electoral map does not look good for Democrats. Of the 33 Senate seats that are up, 23 of them are of Democrats, and only 10 of them are from Republicans. 3 Democrat incumbents represent states won by Donald Trump in both 2016 and 2020. That's Montana, Ohio, and West Virginia, while no Republican incumbents represent states won by Joe Biden in 2020. Democrats are also defending seats in 6 states that Biden won by a single-digit margin, and those are Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Michigan, Minnesota, and Maine. Our Republicans are defending only 2 states that Trump won by a single-digit margin, and that's Florida and Texas. Former Democrat, now independent Senator Kristen Sinema's first term is ending in Arizona, a state that Biden won by less than a quarter of a point in 2020. So if you want to know what the real possibility of reparations happening in real life is, you'd have to ask yourself, would Democrat senators up for election in 2024 in states Biden didn't win or barely won, or representing states with smaller black populations like Kristen Sinema of Arizona, John Tester of Montana, Jackie Rosen of Nevada, Martin Heinrich of New Mexico, Sherrod Brown of Ohio, and Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin vote yes on reparations if Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer were to bring a vote to the Senate for tomorrow. And he could if he wanted to. Now, you know, and I know what the answer to that would be. The answer would be no. Do you really think that Chuck Schumer would risk losing Democrat control of the Senate just because black people feel we need reparations from the U.S. government? Hell no. And that's not racism or white supremacy. That's just plain old electoral math. 2, Democrats are the party of the poor. So black people, why would the party of the poor want you to be rich? If every black person were given $5 million tomorrow, what reason will we have to continue to support the Democrat Party whose slogan is tax the rich? We just got this money from the government. We damn sure wouldn't be trying to pay half or even more of it back to said government via taxes to fund welfare programs for poor whites and Latinos, right? So if the majority of black people became business and landowners tomorrow due to the infusion of reparations cash and benefits, and benefits, and then the black struggle policies of the Democrats, they would no longer suit us at that point. We no longer have a reason to continue voting for them. The Democrats rise and fall on the black struggle narrative. Our overwhelming support of the Democrat Party is their most effective weapon against the Republicans. All Democrat political leadership are a bunch of rich white people calling another group of rich white people, Republican political leadership, racist, all because Democrats have the overwhelming political support of struggling black people. If black people are no longer struggling, we then become free agents who could then look at what's best for our own individual lives and vote accordingly and vote competitively instead of feeling the need to collectively struggle vote as we do now. I'm going to vote Democrat because Democrats support reparations, while the Democrats push a reparations that is so radical and far to the left that it will never gain the bipartisan support needed for it to actually happen. And then when it doesn't happen, it's because of those racist Republicans. Wash, rinse, repeat. And this is the holding pattern that we're in. It's nothing more than political busy work for black people, as described by Democrat former President LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, in 1968. This is to keep those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. The same thing is going on right now is what Biden is doing with the student loan bailouts. He knows they're unconstitutional and they're never going to happen, but he pushes it anyway, not through actual legislation where every Democrat would have to be on record voting for the college bailout. No, what he's going to do is he's going to push it through the courts. Sounds mighty familiar. So when it gets struck down, he can blame the Republicans and the college students will vote for him all over again. Wash, rinse, repeat. This is the Democrat playbook. So making the black struggle voter instantly rich via reparations will be electoral suicide for the Democrats, hence why it's never going to happen. Number 3, demography is destiny. Democrats like to talk about race relations in this country as though it's still 1968 and their beloved LBJ is still president. It is not 1968. In 2024, the United States is a much radically different country than we were back then. We're much more of a black and white country than we are now. Then reparations made much more political sense than it does now. Then would have been the time to enact reparations, but Democrat President LBJ clearly had other plans. Black people, being strict adherents to the Democrat Party over the past few decades, have unwittingly gone along with the Democrats' push for greater electoral power through legal and illegal immigration, leading Black people to no longer be the most populous minority. We are now outnumbered by Latinos, and we are now outnumbered by Latinos, as they are now the most populous minority. So now the population of brown people now figure into the political calculus of reparations, which used to be a black and white issue, now making it a people of color issue politically. Case in point, let's look at South Florida here where I live in Miami Beach, which is why you're hearing all this noise because spring break is going on right now. We'll look at where I live in Miami. We'll look at Houston, Texas, and Los Angeles, California. Let's look at these House districts. Representative Frederica Wilson of FL 24, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas 18, and Representative Maxine Waters of California 34. Now, these are 2 urban blue-leaning districts that are in ultimately red-leaning states, and the last is a blue district in the bluest state of all. These are all represented by 3 Black Congressional Caucus Democrat women, Trump haters, who take up all the default woke Democrat positions. Why wouldn't these women be at the forefront of the reparations for Black people discussion? Well, it's because their districts are 34 to 51, 42 to 36, and 46 to 23% Hispanic to Black. The Congressional Black Caucus doesn't just represent Black people anymore. So for Black Congress people to offer anything more than mere lip service toward reparations for just Black people, when they need a sizable amount of Hispanic vote to keep their seats, just isn't politically safe anymore for them as it would be for their Democrat counterparts in the Senate. Hence why people of color is the new Black. Again, it's not racism, it's not white supremacy, it's just electoral math. Now, the last point here, number 4, is there is a form of reparations already on the table currently on the law in Iowa and Arizona that will pay Black parents and all parents up to $30,000 a year per child, and the Democrats are vehemently against it. That reparation is school choice. School choice being the ability for Black parents to take up to $30,000 a year that the government gives to its own failing public schools in order to educate, really indoctrinate our children into LGBTQ, whatever, and make them little Marxists. We can then take that money and take that same government money and put it toward a private, religious, or Afrocentric school of the parents' choice. The whole idea of the money following the student instead of, the students being stuck in these failing schools. As we know, it's just been reported that in Baltimore, literally none of the kids are up to grade level in reading and math. And we know in Baltimore, these are a predominantly Black school district. So what school choice would do is it gives Black parents the chance to take the money that the government is throwing away in Baltimore, and we can now take and put our kids in any type of school we want, whether it be a Afrocentric school, as like a Dr. Umar, or Isaiah's Institute that Michi X always talks about all the time, or any type of any other private school or religious school. With that type of infusion of cash, Dr. Umar could have 10 schools by now. Zayas could have 100 schools by now. Imagine having $30K per student pushed into Afrocentric schools. So with this being the case, why would Democrats like Barack Obama, who in his November 22nd campaign speech, November 22nd, 2022, just last year, his campaign speech for Senator Frankenstein Fetterman in Philadelphia, rail against school choice? Meanwhile, Obama's kids went to private school. I believe they went to that Friends school in DC, which is like one of the best schools in the country. So how can Democrats be for reparations but against school choice, knowing good and damn well the first thing Black folks are going to do with the reparations money is take our kids out of failing public schools and put them into better schools or even homeschool our kids. So could this all be because public school teacher unions are one of the biggest contributors to the Democrat Party? Or possibly because Democrats, the chosen party of Black people, the party of government control, or rather, they control the billions of dollars of government education dollars that get spent in the government, rather than have you Black person control where they get spent, and you control what school your kids go to. So ask yourself this question, Black person. If Democrats like Obama don't want you to have control over how $30,000 a year from the government is spent, then why would they want you to have control of a $5 million payout from the government? Make it make sense. It doesn't make any sense. This is why I'm saying that the Democrats have no intention and never had any intention of ever passing reparations. When have you seen anybody in Democrat leadership, an Obama, a Biden, someone who is not on the trenches, who is not on the outside, the outskirts of, Democrat leadership? When have you heard Pelosi say, we're for reparations? You never heard that, because they have no intention of doing that. Because when they had the chance, when Obama could have done it, 2009, 2010, they could have done it. Republicans couldn't do anything about it. They didn't do it. Yet it's becoming an issue now, right before an election, once again. You can't fall for this again, Black folks. You really can't. So, in conclusion, can there be reparation of Black people? Yes, but not in this current unserious, get whitey, hashtag cut the check iteration we have going on right now. This is not happening. It's never was meant to happen, and there's no way this is ever going to make it anywhere outside of the interwebs. It's not in real life. Definitely not going to make it in Congress. It's iteration. You can't have a hate whitey legislation in a majority white country. Call me a coon, like my friends here, but that's just the reality of the situation. It's not going to happen. We may as well just be honest with ourselves. That's never going to happen in a majority white country. So, is a reparation something that can actually happen? Yes, it can. But we have to also look at the fact that, have things like structural racism and systemic racism and other things of that nature happen in this country. Your redlining, your things of that nature. Yes, they have. Should something be done about whatever lingering effects those things are still having in order to move our country forward past the racial divide? Absolutely. It even figures on the political right that Black people effectively hate, like Ann Coulter, you can look it up online, have expressed support for some sort of reparation. But rather than pushing these fanciful, get whitey revenge fantasies, is what our current, reparations conversations become, I urge Black Democrat voters to push their leadership for reparative policies for Black people with stated verifiable goals. Verifiable is very important. I actually did a video on my YouTube where I talk about what is the end game of the Black struggle. They're always talking about, we'll do reparations, we'll do this, we'll do that, but no one ever talks about what does this mean? What does it mean for Black people to be whole? When do we move forward from racism? When is this not going to be a quote unquote racist country? How does that work? We never talk about how that moves forward, because the whole point is not meant to move forward. It's meant to do this forever and ever again and keep you in words voting Democrat for 200 years. That was the point. We need to have that conversation with our Black leadership. So when they come to you about, Trump this and white supremacy, Maxine, I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is, how is education for Black children going to be better? How can I take that same money that you guys are wasting in the government and put my child in the same private schools that Maxine got her grandkids in? Let's have that conversation. That's why I'm saying, back to the beginning, this is not about vote for Trump and whatever. Am I voting for Trump? Absolutely. Y'all know I'm a Trump supporter. I don't deny that. I don't lie about that. Am I a dyed-in-the-wool Republican? I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what's going on in the Republican Party. I actually am more of a believer of people being independent. But do I support Trump specifically? Absolutely, I do. Do I support Mitch McConnell and a lot of these other Republicans? I do not. So, that's it. If it's not about switching or voting for another party per se, I mean, that may be the remedy for you as an individual. You may do that. But this is not, like I said, I'm not Candace Owens, not trying to make everybody, all Black people have to be Democrats, because all of Black people being anything is not the solution. We actually need to be independent. Some Black people can be this in this election, some can be that. I don't believe that we are a political, I am not a Republican. You know what I mean? Like, the only people that are Republicans are people who run as Republicans in, elections. I am a citizen. I will vote for whoever I feel is best in each individual election. And more Black people and just more Americans should be that way period. Because the whole team mindset, the only thing that does is it only helps the political parties. It does not help you as a citizen. The team mindset, it just helps them. The Republicans are going to vote for this, the Democrats are going to vote for that. No, you have to prove to me, person running, whether you Democrat, Republican, Trump, Biden, whomever, you have to prove to me with each election that you are worthy of my vote, because your vote is worth millions of dollars. Don't get it twisted. These people in Congress are making millions in overseas, deals. They only can make by being elected to Congress, which is by your vote. So you need to take your vote. Your vote is precious. It's not something just to be thrown away and given away. I don't just give my vote just to any Republican or just to any Democrat. No, do your research. Find out where these people stand on these issues. But I digress. Back to reparations. So what I suggest for Black Democrats is that, we actually need to go to our representatives and say, look, no reparations. We want this to be a real thing. Let's talk and not just get whitey. We hate white people. White people are bad. No, what can we do to actually fix the situation in our communities? What is something you can propose since you're in Congress that can actually pass? Because we know that get whitey is not passing. Like, it may make some Black people feel good because, there are a lot of Black people who are racist. And yes, Black people can be racist. Like, to say Black people can't be racist, to say that Black people are somehow less than white people. Y'all know I don't believe in the white supremacy narrative. I am no less than any white person. There are no white people supreme over me. Black people, y'all out here bugging with this whole white supremacy thing. There is not a white person born to a woman that's supreme over me. Y'all bugging on that. So, it has to be more than just get back at white people. What can we actually do to make changes? My belief, one of those changes definitely be school choice, education. We need better education. How can you give Black folks $5 million and our kids can't even count to 5 million? How is that going to work? We have to do things that actually are going to work. So I urge Black Democrat voters to go to your leadership and push for stated verifiable goals. This is the goal that we're getting to. We need to see this. We want literacy rates of this. We want school test scores to be this, instead of lowering the standards and trying to say taking away standardized testing, saying that these tests are racist, which is ridiculous because you have people fresh off the boat from China and from Africa and Nigeria all doing way better than we are. Black folks, white folks, Americans in general. So you can't say there's something wrong with the test. It's our attitude around the test that needs to change. I'm under the belief that anybody Black, you can do anything that any white person can do. You're not going to convince me that I'm any less or that white folks are smarter or privileged or whatever it is over me. There's nothing that a white person can do that I cannot do if I put my mind to it and put the work in. And this is what we should be teaching our kids, and teaching them they're victims and they're somehow like underneath white people. Like the whole white supremacy, it drives me crazy. I digress. It drives me nuts. So we need to have verifiable goals that move us beyond racial conflict and this racial narrative. Because one of my other worries is that, I'm pushing 40. I'm going to be 40 this year, and look good. God has blessed me. Thank God, Black don't crack. But when I'm gone, when I'm dead, when we're all dead, I don't want to be looking down from heaven and see Black folks 200 years from now still talking about a white supremacy and a racism and a slave. Like, these things, we're not going to be talking about this in the year 2100, 2200, 2300. We're not going to let old racist LBJ have his way. So now, if that moving forward for reparations means some sort of cash payment, then make a real argument for that, Democrats, that can actually pass in Congress, instead of selling Black people this overinflated pipe dream that's just designed to keep disenfranchised Black people voting for you for the next 200 years. Fairness, equality of opportunity should be the goal, not the disingenuous notion of equality of outcomes. You can't equalize everybody's outcome. We're all given the same opportunity, and with that, we run with it. We can't do that and exploit racial strife. We are not a country of oppressors and the oppressed, our futures pre-foretold by our skin color. But we are all American citizens, red, yellow, black, and white, who can do whatever we put our minds to in the greatest country in the world. This is, sorry, wokies, the greatest country in the world. Tell that to all of the illegal immigrants and the people who are walking thousands of miles to get here. They see America as a great country. We are somehow socialized not to see that. And that makes absolutely no sense, But we need to get into, and that's one of my things that actually was a part of my conversion to coming on the conservative side, is realizing that there's a lot of opportunity in America that we, unfortunately, as Black people, are socialized not to take advantage of, because we have this chip on our shoulder from a slavery that we didn't even experience. Like, it's almost an insult to, these people who died for us, who are our ancestors, for us to then try to like talk in ways that like we have their same experience. These people are the real people who endured slavery. These people died for us. And it is our responsibility as Black people of today to do better and stand on their shoulders and conquer and do best for our children. How are we to say that we are under white supremacy? Like, this is an insult to them. Like these people died so that we can be where we are. And yet 150, 200, 400 years later, we're saying that we're subjugated by white people. Like, really? Like, how disrespectful is that of our ancestors? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. So, and again, to our Black leadership, nobody is a better example of doing better and the American dream than our Black congressional people. These are all people, the Maxine Waterses of the world, and the Sheila Jackson Lees and people like that. These are people that came from humble circumstances to be leaders, to be a part of the 535, 536, if you count the president, most powerful people in the entire world. These Black people are some of the most powerful Black people, not in the country, not in the state, in the entire world. And many of them started off from, farming, from civil rights, from the projects. So how can you sit up there on Capitol Hill with everything that you have, Maxine, everything that you have, Hakeem Jeffries, everything that you have, and then say that Black people are subjugated under white supremacy? Well, clearly white supremacy didn't do anything to you up there on Capitol Hill, Maxine, with your $4 million house outside your district, with your investment banker husband making all kinds of overseas deals around the country with your millionaire self. Clearly, you did something right. So why, instead of subjugating us and having us, look for these pipe dreams of the government's going to give you $5 million, why are you not giving us a cheat code and showing us how you did it? Like, why are you not the example? Why is Trump the problem and Republicans the problem and the issue when we follow you? Why are you not our example? Rich Black people. That goes to celebrities, the Jay-Z's, the Beyoncé's, all the wokies, Colin Kaepernick. I mean, he swears he's Black. He's actually not Black, but whatever. These people, like, you people are up here, and yet you're messaging to young Black children that they're somehow bound by white supremacy, but you all are doing great. So why can't you tell us how you did great? Like, why is that not the message or the narrative? I don't get that. So again, nobody is a better illustration of coming up and doing better than our Black congressional leadership, many of whom have come from humble beginnings to the leaders that they are today. If they can do it without the promise of a $5 million check from the U.S. government, then why can't they show the next Black person they can, instead of telling us that we can't? So that's the article. The full article is at on my Substack at benjiirby.substack.com, or you can do the shortcut at coonservative.com. As you can see, I'm embracing the whole coon thing. They're going to call you a coon anyway. You know what I mean? Whether I actually love Black people, I'm not aiming at Black people at all. Anybody knows me knows that. But, if you're not drinking the Democrat Kool-Aid, you're a coon. So instead of running away from the coon label, I actually embrace it. I think it's hilarious. Hence why all my raccoons are here. It doesn't bother me at all. Call me a coon all day. It really doesn't matter. Like, I don't give a shit. Who cares? But anyway, I just want to share that with you. I haven't done a live in a long time. I don't want to ramble. I'm not good at social media. I actually really suck really bad at it. But again, check me out on Twitter at Real Benji Irby, Instagram at Real Benji Irby. I post stories like every day. That's probably where I'm the most active. And you can read the full transcript of this article and be sure to share it with everyone. It's on Substack. It's free. Tell everyone, subscribe at coonservative.com. And I am currently working on my book. It will be out in the next few months. I'm actually scheduling my photo shoot for the cover. I'm not going to reveal the title of the book and everything just yet, but all that's taken care of. It's going to be a very interesting, good read. It's not going to be your standard, Black conservative get off Democrat plantation, BS fair. I hate that term. And I understand why Black people are repelled by that. I think it's just so gross and disgusting when people say that. It's literally nails on the chalkboard when I hear them say, get off the Democrat. Like, that is just not, like, why would Black people ever want to even, like, associate with Black conservatives when they say stupid things like that? And again, as I stated before, I'm not a believer in political affiliation. Vote for who you want to vote for. We are not Democrats. We're not Republicans. We are citizens. So with that, before I go into rambling, we've been on for a half hour. Thank you so much for those who are watching. Continue to keep up with me at benjiirby.com, conservative.com, and at all of my social media links are in the description. Thank you so much and have a good night. God bless. God bless America. I'll be voting for Trump 2024. You vote who you want to, but I'm voting for Trump. Just putting that out there and being honest. DeSantis, love you, but Trump guy all the way. Love you, Governor DeSantis, but it's Trump for me all the way. So anyway, enjoy that article. Let's talk about, and I would love to hear more discussion about a real path for actual reparations in this country to be able to fix the racial divide so we can all move forward as a country. God bless you all. Love you. Have a good night.